Well, of course, we saw... well, I should say, really, it's a non-royal now, because the Poundland Prince did make it to the UK. Yes, Harry was here briefly. And interestingly, the King said, sorry, don't have time in my schedule to see you. Now, personally, I believe that that was because he did not want the contents of any meeting that Prince Harry might have had with him blurted on Good Morning America or in any other interview going forward to try and sell any of the tat that they're trying to hoik onto the British public, including jam, tea towels or anything else that American Riviera Orchard will be selling down the line. But perhaps I am being cynical. Rupert Bell, Talk's royal correspondent, joins me now. Morning to you, Rupert.
Good morning to you, Krista. Your cynicism is not entirely misplaced, so I would suggest that you are on the right tack there.
Well, let's talk about that first, actually, before we get on to what's happening with their tour of Nigeria, which we're going to speak about in a moment. This is Harry and Meghan's tour of Nigeria. Why is it, do you think, that King Charles chose... before they went to Nigeria, not to see Prince Harry?
I think the whole thing fundamentally is sad at the core. Let's just establish that they can't actually seem to find a way to heal the rift that is clearly there. When he came over in February, it then was blurted out that his father, something was revealed from that meeting. And I think
he went on Good Morning America, I think, the next day or the day after to say, you know, he's doing okay and answered questions about the meeting, basically.
Yeah, so I think there is an element of that. Yes, we would have known we all knew for some time that Harry was coming over to be part of this Invictus celebrations at St. Paul's Cathedral. So it wasn't as if the royal family didn't know that he was coming over and they could have engineered it. So therefore it begins to look like the heart of it, the King just felt that he couldn't, some of the energy, maybe, the mental energy, to go through it. Because it obviously is a difficult time for both parties. Because if you're going to get together for 30 minutes, you're really only still going around the small talk bit. Where really what they need is to be put into a darkened room probably for a couple of days just to sort of regroup and discuss everything. But at the heart of it also has got to be the trust that if they do that, that it's not suddenly, as you say, blurted out in some Netflix documentary to further sell their story. So that is the problem at the heart of it, the lack of trust from the royal household's point of view with the Harry Roadshow and the way that he does seem to exploit his position within the royal family for his own good, even though he has no desire to be part of it.
Okay, so there is a fundamental mistrust, is what you were saying, and it's certainly just not in the King's interests to meet Prince Harry. The King has been ill, understandably. The King doesn't want any stress, and he knows that on the balance of things, the stress that meeting Harry would give him does not outweigh any pleasure he might have by seeing his son.
I think that's probably the bit at the moment. He's got to concentrate on his recovery. Yes, he's now got a seemingly increasingly a diary that is full of commitments, and he was busy on Wednesday. But we knew, you know, that could have been still engineered to suit a possible meeting with Harry because they knew he was going to be in the country. So at the heart of it, you know, the will was not ultimately there to create this meeting. Now, you can look at it and say, well, as outsiders looking in, that just unfortunately feels sad that they couldn't find a way. Because many of us have relatives who live overseas, and we do, you know, tend to know that they might be coming over and try your diaries out. So actually, you know, there is, you know, it could have been done if their will was there from the royal household side, ultimately, I believe.
Without doubt, he's crossing the Atlantic Ocean. They don't see each other very often. The idea that with months and months of notice that the King couldn't have spared half an hour, which was what he spared last time, and as we've alluded to, it ended up being blurted out on national television within a few days. The idea that he couldn't spare any time whatsoever, or couldn't actually command that, sorry, you've got to clear something for my diary, I want to spend a couple of hours with my son, you know, is nonsense. It was a deliberate, very definite snub for Prince Harry. And of course, it wasn't just from the king that snub came. The snub also came from the rest of the royal family, because as I understand it, he was trying to get anyone that he could to go to this Invictus ceremony, and they didn't.
Well, although his family on his mother's side did turn up in force, and so he did have support that side. But actually, when you think the Invictus Games, at times, okay, Harry has always been the very public face of Invictus Games. When it started 10 years ago, it was very much a sort of, William was involved, and they were very much a team behind it. So again, that's just further, it reflects the sadness that the Invictus Games now is seen as Harry's show, and he gets on with it, and the rest of the royal family aren't really involved. But that wasn't the case 10 years ago. And again, that just reflects the sadness of what is going on within the breakdown of this relationship between Harry and the rest of his family.
OK, well, as I've said before, and I'd say it again, I would absolutely like to see the King seeing Prince Harry and Meghan, as long as he produces a non-disclosure agreement. I'd be saying, here you go, sign this. It's a full NDA. You can't say a word about it. Then let's have a nice lunch. If you're not going to sign it, then out you go. Sorry, you have to go elsewhere.